We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk. So another episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And I am back from Targa Carolina. Yay.
Yeah, he is. Marbo,
Dude,
man.
What a great trip. Weather was perfect.
Saw you in jackets, huh?
Yeah. 50s,
like?
40s at night. You know, it was awesome.
Strutting around in a little martini.
Air-cooled were super happy. So if you guys don't know, Targa is an air-cooled only event, invite only. Really great event to.
I got half that.
Yeah. Well, you have the invite.
I know. That's what I said. I got half that. I got the invite.
He was asking me about where you were. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
I'll get there.
You better next year. Everybody was asking about you. Like, where's Aaron at? And I was like, dude, a 964 is a small car. He's not going to be here with me in it. And he's not going to ride shotgun all day long.
The truth is weight matters.
Exactly,
Mike's
especially in that
like,
car.
Nope.
I was like, yeah, I don't know what you weigh, like what, 190?
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm like, yeah, that's that's a BOP in my car that I don't need.
It's negative.
Yeah.
Can't take this.
I was like, get out of here. We're not adding horsepower. You're not in the car. Get out. But want to thank the Rotary Supply. They helped sponsor the event. Zweck, Haggerty, Duck and Whale, and Tripwire. They were all there doing like the filming. And there's going to be...
cool.
A spread on it from Duck and Whale, and Jim Goodlet's actually writing the article about Targa Carolina in general. Cool. So it's going to be really cool. So if you're Duck and Whale subscription holder, look for that episode, or I should say issue. And if you're not, right?
If you're not, then and you're part of the P-Car Club, you might be getting a subscription this month.
Yeah, because that's our giveaway this month, right?
Yeah.
So we have a Duck and Whale giveaway subscription.
Yeah, full year.
Full year subscription
it's quarterly.
To any P-Car Club member, and you can become a P-Car Club member on our website. We have 3 levels of membership. So it's a really good thing that's going to be coming out. Duck and Whale does amazing print articles and photos, and they employ and contract some of the best people in the world for some of the best events. So you're going to hear about some of the coolest stuff in that magazine. But back to Targa Carolina, the driving was outstanding. I think we had 6 groups. Broken into 10. We had fast groups, and then we had slow groups, which is exactly what you want. And we had medium pace groups, so everybody kind of found their way. Everybody kind of had an idea of what group they wanted to be in and who they were going to run with. And some cars, for capability purposes, is not that they're not a fast driver. Some of them, I mean, there were 356s out there. Like, let's be real. And like, there were some long hood cars. I mean, they're toting all of like 150 horsepower. When you're running against
momentum,
when you're running against in a group of cars and you're trying to keep pace, like, I know it's not all about speed, but like, you do need to have some carry with you.
A couple 300 horsepower starts making a difference.
Yeah, especially when they have bigger brakes, they can go deeper into the corners. They're putting a lot more power down coming out. We had a pretty power driven group. The one I was in, we had some high horsepower cars in our group, and we probably were one of the quickest, if not the quickest out there. Not saying that from like it matters,
humble brag.
But I enjoyed our pace. Sunil set the pace for us. He works at Zweck, half owner at Zweck. Thank you, Sunil, for setting that pace, because it was an aggressive pace. If you don't know Sunil, he has a lot of track time.
I was going to say, well, Sunil's leading it.
And the minute I saw our names on I was like, he's leading.
Yeah.
I was like, and we put him out there, and man, he ran like scalded dog out there, and we were right behind him. So it was very fun.
So you've gotten to run both the air and the water cooled. Which one did you enjoy, the air cooled more, or?
It's hard to say, because on our trip, it was totally different roads. And obviously Charles, it sets us up. He's pretty dialed in for Targa Carolina. He's been doing it several times now. And he knows the kind of cars that are running on his roads. And I think the reason why we ran the roads we did is because there's a lot of technical roads, meaning like a lot of switchbacks, a lot of negative degree turn-ins, all that kind of stuff. You can carry a lot of a pace, but I don't think a water-cooled car would be justified out there, to be honest with you. Like, I was really working the 964 pretty hard.
That's what I was going to ask.
But it was great. Everybody was working the shit out of their cars. It was super technical. You're in the rev range, high in the rev range. A lot of tire squealing, like as the cars are biting to go through everything. Everybody's sliding around, like, and in a good way. It's not
you're
because
going to use the car. That's what I was trying to ask. And
Al was out there in his turbo monster, like doing basically on his switchback. He has so much power. He's literally doing an 11 burnout, like, because he was in front of me on one. It's just like, because there's a lot of elevation change. But these roads were set up meaning like he picked these roads for these cars, then it makes total sense. Like it marries the power level with the cars. Sometimes, you know, some of the high elevation changes on the downs and the air-cooled cars can get a little nerve-wracking because you're carrying a lot of speed.
Yeah.
And I mean, speed that you should be carrying almost like in a GT3, but you're in an air-cooled car. So it's kind of a butt-puckering moment where you're just like scalding down the mountains and you're like, yeah, I know I don't have the kind of carbon, I don't have carbon ceramics on this.
Right now.
Yeah, granted my car is like lighter, but still I'm like, okay. So you just, you know, a little engine braking, you know, bring down, trail brake a little bit. But I mean, we wore the outsides of our tires out on all of those cars. When we came in, they're all glazed. And they're like, how are you guys burning tires down out on open roads like this? And I was like, dude, we were getting after it.
Yeah.
After it. But really, really good location. Little Switzerland, great little town, and great resort. Everything about it was awesome. There was a lot. Hodinky was there too one night, showing off some watches. It's just really well put on, and I really wanted to thank Charles personally for taking the time, because we know how it's like. We set up these events, and it's a lot of moving parts that go into this, and there's a lot of behind the scenes to make things like this happen. And again, like, he had 60 cars out there too, man. Yeah. So it's drinking from a fire hose, and anything above any number, like 30 cars is a lot. So I mean,
still management of people.
I mean, well, you think about it, yeah. And then there was probably 20 co-pilots too, so you have 80 people out there. That's 80 different personalities too that you're mingling. And you know, every night everybody's sitting down to dinner together. Not that it was an issue or anything. Nobody had any issues. But I'm just saying it's a lot to have to do that. And I just want to thank Charles personally for setting that up. I hope you get out there sometime soon.
Next year, it's going down.
You better. I mean, I've heard that from you before. Next year I'm getting an air-cooled, and another calendar year goes by, and here we are. I don't care what you buy. You better have something air-cooled so you can at least go.
My 914, you know, I love those.
Whatever.
I'll be in there.
There was a 914.6 up there. He was doing damage.
Getting it.
But yeah, I highly recommend it. And everybody, I've got a couple messages, and don't bombard Charles and ask him how you can go. And I'm gonna already throw the gauntlet up on that. How you end up going is basically you get to know Charles.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about through DMing and all that. I'm talking about on a personal level. That's how you end up getting invited to one of these events. And I'm not saying it from trying to make people feel excluded standpoint, but there's a vetting process on why Charles does that, because he wants to make sure the event's clean, make sure that nobody's crashing into each other, making sure everybody's qualified enough as a driver and maintaining their car enough. And making sure you're a good fit, too, for the culture of what this event is. Because a lot of people think, you know, just because you see something online and you can just sign up and go to it, it just might not mesh well. Your personality or your type might not mesh well with that group. Or vice versa. You might not like the vibe it's there, and you might have a horrible time. So there's reasons behind that. It's not because he's trying to be excluding people and it's just the cool kids club or any of that kind of stuff. You just can't do it. Like, there's events out there that run like 400 or 500 cars, and that's absolutely asinine. You cannot do that stuff. And it's one of those things where it's fortunate, and it goes back to what our ethos is here at PCAR Talk a long time ago, right? Get out and meet people, instead of just, you know, looking at something and, you know, DMing a comment and like, hey, getting a short answer, like, how do I get in? What is this? Oh, what are you running on your car? Just tell me I'm some stranger, whatever. It's get out and meet people, because I guarantee if you build a relationship with somebody in the Porsche community, they're going to share it with you.
What's it offset, bro?
Exactly. You know, what's your setup, man? Oh, cool. I don't know you. Like, it's fine. Like, I know social media is a way for people to connect, but honestly, like, the best way, it's still the same way, the old-fashioned way, connecting with people face to face. The
person to person.
Yeah, like this event, like, everybody was talking to each other. And the great thing about it is hardly anybody had cell phone reception, so nobody was buried in their phone. Everybody's actually speaking to each other, like human beings, like you should be. And that's what these events are really about, to build that camaraderie, build that family, build that relationship. And I think a lot of these events start out that way, but some of them kind of spiral out of control, especially with the demand of people wanting to go.
Oh, there's always. I mean, if it's a good thing, it's always going to grow.
Well, the problem with that is it's the organizer has to manage that, right? Like, and
want to manage that,
and you have to. It sucks, but it doesn't. It does and it doesn't. You want the people that go to have a good experience. So you almost have to cap it so there isn't too many people, so everybody who is there has a good experience. Because essentially, if you have too many and everybody there doesn't have a good experience, then it was kind of a wash, wasn't it? Because then you had too many cars there to begin with. And then you go, okay, well, what the hell's going on?
You're not having a good time. They're not having a good time.
Yeah. And this was very well done. It was very well split up. It was perfect groups. I really don't see it getting a whole lot bigger than this. And it goes like, again, what we talked about before, he doesn't set like a number. I mean, I know he has an idea in his mind of like, okay, no matter what, we can't have this many. I don't know what that number is, but at the same time, it's one of those things. It's like, these are the people that I trust. 60. And then hosting this event, I'm going to email all of them and tell them the dates, and the first come to first serve, they sign up, and then we go. And if you can't get in, because there are people who wanted to come to this event who, for whatever reason, couldn't sign up early enough, and they were on the outside out. So there is a cap to it.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, so the email did go out to a lot more people that weren't there. Let's put it that way. For one reason or another, either couldn't make the obligation at the time, or ended up could not going on the trip, and even though they signed up, whatever. The point I'm getting at is these things that turn into these 300, 400, 500 cars for these rallies are absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't go on it, but personally, I wouldn't be attending one of those events because there's no way in hell that's fun. Because the whole point is to get to meet people on this thing.
Yeah,
too.
no, I mean, unless they were able to scale it in some way, which is probably
What's a group dinner look like at the end of the night with the 300 or 400 people?
4 different. There would have to be like 5, 6.
Non-existent is the answer. Is basically everybody's kind of doing their own damn thing.
Yeah.
I like these type of things where it's intimate. People are sitting together. You're sitting by somebody you don't know. You get to know people. Get to know their car. Get to know their driving habits. Now you have a Porsche buddy, and that's what we've been screaming to people when you go to events or you go to the racetrack. You go to these places. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Get out there and say something. Like, nobody's going to bite your head off. Even if you don't own a Porsche, they're going to be like, do you own a Porsche? Like, don't build up this monster in your mind of people not going to speak to you, or get to know as many people as you can. Ask them about their cars. Do those things, because that's how you get to go to things like this.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, how do I get to go to that? Okay, well, you got to meet those people. Meet the people that are part of that group. Meet the people that drive that stuff. Meet the people that are drivers. They're enthusiasts. You know, that none of the people, let's put it this way, were on this trip that weren't drivers. Everybody who was on this trip was a driver. Because it's a driving event. Yeah. Right?
Driving first.
This isn't a dog and pony show. Like, we didn't have them spread out on the lawn at the resort, like shining them up with a diaper. Like, everybody had like cracked bumpers and glass and all this kind of stuff. And all of these high-end cars, don't get me wrong, like early 911s, like getting after it, putting rock chips all over it, tearing their cars up. That's what they're for. They're machines. They're machines, right?
Fun machines.
So one big thank you again to Charles. I appreciate the invite so much. I will bring Aaron with me next year if he has an air-cooled. If he isn't, he's still going to be sidelined again.
By bringing, by bringing, he means me driving with him up there.
Yeah, in his own car.
Yes.
So if that doesn't happen, I guess he'll be sidelined once again. So we'll see about that. Again, no room for husky people
964 is
in
tiny.
the 964. Plus, it has a cage. There's no space in it, anyways. Like,
extra excuses.
My luggage lives in that passenger seat.
It does.
So anyways,
the front spaces.
Yeah, it's also healthy for him and I to spend some time apart, right?
That's true.
So yeah. All right, moving on. Porsche Taycan.
Yep.
Best-selling car in the Porsche lineup, excluding SUVs now, in the third quarter. That's almost saying, like, I batted 400 in the month of August on Thursdays in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting, like, I'm not going to bust them up that bad, but let's put it this way. It outsold the 911 for the third quarter. 1,858 Taycans sold in the third quarter. 911s, 1,567 sold. Is this a misleading number, though? Because is this cars delivered and now the final paperwork is signed? And are these cars that have already been sold and had deposits on them, and all of these deliveries and final paperwork went through in this third quarter, which says 1858? Is that a misleading number, do you think?
I would say...
because there's no way they just sold 1,858 Taycans in the third quarter.
That's crazy.
Or maybe they did. I don't know.
I would say that it's probably a bunch of different circumstances to lead to that 1858. Like, it's not just sold. It could be allocations, could be that type of thing.
So you're thinking you're thinking from a macro level.
Yeah.
You think it's everything. You think it's deliveries,
Yeah.
actual cars, new cars sold maybe for allocations.
I think it's everything. The way that they were specifying.
Okay, I didn't even think about it that way.
Third quarter.
Kind of give it a fluff it up, huh? A little.
Yeah, beating the 911, not SUVs, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because you want it to do well. I mean, you're not going to want it to be like, oh, Taycan's selling like hotcakes. We gotta get one before they're all out.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of weird that even if it is all those things, and let's be fair across the board. Let's include 911 on that. So that 1567, that's allocations, that's deliveries, that's everything in the third quarter. So we're comparing apples to apples here.
Okay.
Do you find it odd that it outsold the 911 992 roughly by 300 cars in the third quarter? Do you find that to be odd?
No, because I think the 992 is kind of out as far as like it's not new and shiny. It's been a few months.
Okay, so you're saying
it doesn't fit as many.
You're saying that the hotness, hot newness is kind of like worn off of that.
But I would also say that the Taycan's going to fit more people as far as solution wise.
Okay.
It's not just a coupe.
Okay.
You got 4 doors. It's a sedan.
Yeah, and it could still be. I think it's just that electric sexiness. I think a lot of newer generation, maybe people are hunting after.
It's good.
Oh yeah, it's outstanding. I'm not dogging the car. I mean, the 992 is good too.
Yeah.
I mean, it can do everything.
I guess that's your choice right now.
That car's so capable. It's insane. It can be docile and it can be a butt ripper at the same time. I mean, I know the Taycan can do both as well. I don't know, maybe because I'm a combustion engine kind of guy, and
it's about the 911 is what it's about.
I just find that to be a little shocking. I don't know. I mean,
but it is third quarter. I mean, is it an anomaly? I mean, maybe
could be. Maybe people are already thinking about winter, fall time frame, to not go buy a sports car during that time too. It could be. I mean, I don't know. I've never done any research. Is 911 sales down in the winter and in the fall? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I'd imagine it might be.
So this is based on, worldwide numbers, but the U.S. is only the second largest Porsche market. Do you know who the first is actually?
I would imagine China.
Yeah, that's a good guess. So I mean, everybody out there who's listening to us, keep that in mind when Porsche designs stuff. They're designing stuff for their big markets. And that goes all the way down to the enthusiast group. They're rarely thinking of us. And maybe occasionally somebody in the engineering world can say a little something, and then they'll go towards that, as far as good. You get a GT3 approved or something, or GT3 RS approved, and you're like, yeah, go for it, or whatever. But most of this stuff, this bulk stuff, they're shooting worldwide numbers, right? So
yeah, I mean, at least they have good production numbers, not having any problems with that. They're making their marks. They're definitely moving cars. And that's what we hope they would do.
Well, the government's helping support this, right? Like as far as Taycan sell, because they're not talking federal, but even state governments, like California, we talked about in a prior episode, where they're banning combustion engine cars from new sales in the next 5 years, basically. I think it was 2025, something crazy like that. Was it 35?
I think it was further out.
Okay, yeah. But either way, listen to the episode, because I don't know. I read you the actual documentation information. It probably was 35. Yeah, I think it was 35, because that put in me. I was going to be in my 50s when that happened. So yeah, for sure.
He's still planning.
No, I just want to see what that demographic of their landscape is going to look like out there. And, it's a little early to say maybe this is what having an impact on that, but I'm sure people's mindsets are starting to change. I mean, that's how these things start to become a thing, is that you start shifting people's cultural mindset on what's status quo and what's not. So once this starts to happen, and then once that switch has happened where, okay, this is okay, it becomes a thing. So this is probably the beginning of this is a thing.
We're on the verge of the thing. Yep. So,
and we knew that though, and this is no shocking thing. I mean, electric cars are unfortunately going to be running side by side by all of this stuff.
I think we'll have a mix. I think like we talked before, I think it's going to be petrol powered, hydrogen powered, and electric.
Yeah. And I think talking and circling all this back in before we go to a break, back into Targa Carolina, is I think it's going to make more of these things, Targa Carolina, when I say things, sprout up across the world, not even just in the U.S., where people get together and they like we've talked before, I think the best comparison analogy wise is you go get your thoroughbred horse and you could go run it around, where you used to be able to take it out on the road and ride over the mountain and all this other kind of stuff, and there was no restrictions on that. Now it's going to be, there's going to be places to play with your horse, so to speak, Porsche, and maybe that will be on a public road, but it's going to be designated areas, right?
And I wonder if it happens that way, or I wonder if we kind of do, it's allowed, but now there's a tax to it, or now there's a special permit for it, or something.
Yeah, we've gone round and round with that. There's really no way of telling how they're going to do it. What you just mentioned probably makes the most sense, because that's another way the government can get more money out of us.
That's what I'm thinking. More money, better.
Yeah, and just make you pay a monster penalty for owning the vehicle, basically, as opposed to if you owned an electric car, there is no penalty. You know, that could just be enough right there. Maybe they don't even give you an incentive, but you just don't get penalized. Who knows? Interesting thoughts either way. Let's go on a quick break, and then when we come back, got some Porsche news, and then we got man, if you're a parent, better hold it down if you're a Porsche owner. I'll just leave you with that. Thank you guys listening to PCAR Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Check us out on YouTube. We release videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Help support the channel. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, you know, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment, we really appreciate that. Again, circling back to pcartalk.com, there is a newsletter created on there. Please put your information in there. That way we can keep you up to date on anything that's coming forward and anything that we're going to be doing moving forward, and all the exciting things that are coming out. Now back to the show. All right, we're back from break. So this is a PSA. I am not a parent, so I'm not going to tell people how to parent their children. So I'm just going to give you guys the information. Last night, 2 teens, 13, 14-year-old-ish, basically stole their parents' Panamera, went joyriding, and a massive high-speed accident. Nobody was chasing them or anything. It was just them acting the fool. The accident was so, like, high-speed-ish, I guess. The engine bay separated from the Panamera. The engine lodged itself into a tree. So, and before we get too far, so everybody's wondering probably how the kids are. They're okay. They're alive. They're in critical care. So there's a couple things to take away from this, right? A, the Panamera is a pretty damn safe car, right? So,
yeah, I would say so. Like, that's crazy, like, breakaway points.
Yeah. So, I mean, in order for an engine to get embedded into a tree, you got to be going pretty quick. I'm sure these guys were
turbo SE hybrid.
It didn't say what it was. It doesn't matter. Like, even a base one can get. It's carrying speed. Yeah. It doesn't matter like how fast you get there. They all can go 100+ miles an hour. It doesn't matter that. Like, it doesn't say what they anticipated the accident speed was. The important part is the children are okay. So, part of that PSA is, I know I was that aged once, and if there were car keys around and my parents left town, or if I had an opportunity, I was probably going to go joyride the car. I mean, the intent is for the child to bring the car back safe. I'm sure it is that these kids, too, they were planned on bringing this thing back. They weren't going to go crash it. But again, their capability, because they're not a seasoned driver, is way beyond what this car is capable of. They can't handle that. So long story short, lock your keys up. You know you got kids.
Or just take them with you or something, yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't say exactly how this transpired. As far as the parents are asleep, they took the key. You know, it didn't get into the, the whole plot, the claims detail behind it. Yeah. It just was the basic, this is what happened. Thankfully, the children are okay. Lesson learned. But again, back to if you are a parent, and you know you, and everybody thinks their kid, oh, my kid will never do that.
Perfect.
Law eyes, your kids are going to do it. You're a kid once. If they get an opportunity, you're like, Mom and I are going out for the night, and you leave the 911 in the garage and those keys are accessible, I know they know you will murder them if something bad happens to them after you figure out they're okay. But don't give them the opportunity to tempt fate, is what I'm getting at, is hide those things. Do yourself and them, you're doing them a favor by hiding them.
Yes.
Or if they have known nothing about the mechanicals of the car, disconnect the battery. Just pull one of the terminals. Do something.
Good call there.
If it's a car, it sits. I'm sure since it was a Panamera, it's probably a family car. Who knows? Mom and dad might have been asleep. They may have just took the keys out of the kitchen off the key ring and went off and did their thing. And if that's a situation in your house, don't leave those keys out there. because this will probably happen at some point, and it's probably already has happened. You just don't know it yet.
Yes, it's already made. They've
Yeah,
already made
the car's
one
been
safe
out,
return.
back in.
Yeah.
They haven't wrecked your car. But I'm saying is, this is, and the only reason why I bring this PSA up is because these kids could have died. And then on top of that, what if they would have killed somebody else?
And then they would have to live with that. That's ugh.
Well, and even from a liability standpoint, these people are minors.
Yeah,
So that's going on mom and dad's
Yeah.
insurance policy / any civil suit coming against them. So, I mean, this is a real thing. This isn't about just, okay, somebody took your car and now you're pissed about it, and it's they took your baby without permission or whatever. This is a safety thing too. That's why it's more of a PSA, because think about it. This could ruin you if this went another way. Say these kids are fine, still critical care, but say they hit somebody and killed somebody. Now that's on mom and dad.
Yeah, because they're not
to make sure that's right, because they're not on the insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, they may get charged for some juvie stuff, but I'm talking about for legality, civil purposes, people on the hook for monetary stuff. The parents are going to be on the hook for that. And depending on what you have on your policy or whatever protection you have or whatever assets you have, all of that stuff is in jeopardy when this kind of stuff happens, is all I'm getting at. So think about that as a parent. I know it's easy to think about, oh, my kid's never going to do this, but that's a real thing. I mean, and not even just a kid. If you got a scumbag brother or sister staying at your place too, and want to do that, hey, you're going to be just as liable. I mean, from a legal standpoint, they'll get the jail time, but from a civil standpoint, you're going to get to handle it, because ultimately the insurance company is going to look at you as the owner of that car. And trust me, I have a lot of friends that worked in the insurance industry. I spent some time in there. The only way that you're not going to get any civil unrest against you is basically say that they stole your car, file a police report for a stolen car. So now you're putting grand theft on that person you so-called care about, brother, sister, child, whatever. Yep. So you're probably not going to do that. So what are you going to end up doing? You're going to eat the civil side of it, and you're probably going to be in a pinch. And you're going to pay one way or another, even if they don't get your assets. Well, when you go to renew your policy or anything like that, guess what? You're taking it, where after that. Yep. So just wanted to share that. Didn't want to focus on a negative thing, but just a kind of a brain thing to think about. Like if you're out there and you're a parent, or your child's approaching that age, or you think any of that stuff, protect your keys, guys, really, and girls, because you think you know, but you don't know, because you just
don't know who's going out to see the friends.
Yeah, you don't know who's who knows. Little Johnny might be dating the coolest girl in school, and she's like, come pick me up in your parents' 911. I bet you won't do it. Boom. Guess what? He wants to show off. Guess what just happened? Wrapped your 911 around a freaking tree, trying to be cool. It happens.
Oh, it does.
It happens to adults.
Yep. Trying
to be cool. Enough said on that, right? So just PSA on that. Just wanted to talk to you guys about that. Now, Porsche has discovered some new old stock.
You don't say.
Some NOS, let's say, specifically for air-cooled 911s. So Porsche has discovered that they have 100 crankcases to sell for air-cooled cars when they were unobtainium for a long time.
I think they were originally for race cars, did it say?
Yeah, they didn't really get into the details of why they had them or what the extra. They always have extra stuff, right? So let me go through what is available and then the story behind some of it, right? So I think when they realized they were, and apparently these crankcases came around, and it sounds about right, around the time when they were making the 962 race car. They made some extra 911 cases because they realized there was a lot of similarities there, and they weren't making them for the 962, but they just made them for extras. Yep. But they'd never been for sale in the public. They just had them. And like I said, it's about 100 cases. So the ones that are available are going to be for 911 air cooled. Like I said, there's 3 variants. So 1984 to 89 Carrera or turbo. So that's basically the 3 liter, 2.2 liter is going to be available for crankcase. 91 to 92 964 3.3 liter turbo. And then the third crankcase available is the 964 993 3.6 liter. Basically the NA car. Yeah. And then they also have a case for the 3.6 liter 964, the bad boy car, and then the 993 turbo as well because they share the same crankcase, that 3.6 crankcase. The trick is it didn't break down how many of each of these. They didn't say there's 100 for each of these categories. They said they have 100 total. So I don't know.
1 here, 10 here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do the math, figure it out. You probably have to call them and ask them. But this is actually from Porsche. You can buy this. But when they're gone, is what they said.
Do you know if you can buy them through Porsche Classic? Is that where they go through?
Probably. So there's 100 out there, probably a lot less because this is after I've seen it. And now it's going to be on this show.
Oh, yeah.
So, and what Porsche said is when they're gone, they're gone. Relatively inexpensive. Granted, it's a crankcase. It's not a full engine. They're 8K, which isn't crazy money, but I mean, it's an unused crankcase. And like I said, there's about 100 of them. So they said, once they're sold, they're sold. Anybody listening to this that probably is doing a resto, or you have the funds to just have an extra one because you planned on doing a build someday.
Need a nice coffee table.
If there is any available as you're listening to this, I wouldn't hesitate. I would definitely call Porsche Classic or try to get a hold of Porsche Cars North America. Somebody start making calls. Don't wait because I don't even know if by the time you call and listen to this, if there's going to be any available because you know who the who's who and in the Porsche rebuilding world. Yeah. Well, I mean, not even that. These guys probably already know about this, and the guys who build the cars, that are building those backdate cars, or people that are taking an old 70s car and like hopping up the motor, and they don't want to mess with the original motor. Like this is what this bill fits all of these people. What are your thoughts on this? Before I ask you the next question, I just there's 100 of these. Do you think this is?
It seems like a good story that Porsche always seems to have. Finding things. Where's this warehouse where they keep finding things? Like, hey, we're gonna have whoever go clean this thing out. Oh, hey, found 100 of these.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like
why 25 years later,
100 of them is pretty noticeable.
Here's 100 engines that you guys can fight over.
I mean, I guess if they're in a race trade. That's what I was asking if it was racing or not. Like if it was something where there were doubles or like
they didn't really divulge that. They really didn't divulge that.
Or they are spending all the money in electric plants. Maybe they're finally cleaning out the other plants.
Maybe. My question is if they have these laying around, right? They have a lot of their own special cars that these kind of fit in. Yeah. Why sell these? If they've been undiscovered for that long, why not hang on to them? Like you don't have to they stockpile their own parts to protect some of their own history.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean they're going to keep it. They're going to keep it as original as possible. I doubt they'd ever swap anything out. They probably feel confident enough that it doesn't matter. But
yeah,
I'm surprised that they wouldn't do like they did with the 993 turbo. That one, not the last waltz, but the other one where they built the exclusive editions. I'm surprised they didn't do any of that, like redo another car.
I'm not surprised at that. I'm surprised that they're actually selling them because I just know, what are they going to do when they need to source one of these?
Well,
cast another one?
Yeah, well, with having Porsche Classic and all the other stuff, they should be able to support something like that.
I wonder if these are cast engines, and they just haven't told anybody that they're casting them. Yeah. And maybe see how this goes. And like you said, when people come into Porsche Classic and want to start restoring cars, and they need a crankcase, and they can start making them. I wonder if that's what this is. Which wants to lead me to the question to ask you is, why do you think Porsche's not doing that already?
Yeah,
from a money standpoint.
I didn't.
Granted, your engine's not going to match, but if you need an engine, you need an engine.
Yeah, if it's time to build it, it's time to build it.
And why should you have to go on to the black market to source an engine for your car if it's unrebuildable?
But if
it's grenaded,
if they're able to restore it and then give you that 0 mile seal, does it matter? Does now am I able to put that VIN number on that motor saying now it's a numbers?
Yeah, they're Porsche. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, now it's a numbers matching engine.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want. That's what I'm asking you is why are they not casting? Maybe they are and they haven't told us that yet. Yeah. Maybe that's coming. Maybe this is the beginning of that, and this is hey, we have NOS. Oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it's
because if this truly was the last of the last, and you have a variety of 100 different engines that happens to come to the number 100,
at a perfect 100, that's true.
Not like 67, not like weird 73, whatever weird amount you have for all. We have a perfect 100.
Well, they're German
between of all these,
so that's explainable.
Yeah, okay, but I'm just saying, really,
yeah.
Is this another cloak and dagger move?
It definitely could be. We know that they're building up their Porsche Classics.
Yeah, we know that's coming,
so,
and I'm not hating on them for that. Like honestly, I really hope they start doing it, because honestly, there's a big need and big demand out there, because there's plenty of guys that we know in the air cooled community would love to build a hot rod engine, but not mess with their original engine. So if they could pull that out and put it on an engine stand,
then still be
and then go put one of the buy one of these from Porsche with a crankcase and build it up the way they want. This is what Porsche hot rodders have been wanting forever. You know, obviously since when it was current, it wasn't that big of a deal because they were casting and making these engines for the cars at the time. But the minute they switched over to water cooled and they stopped production of making all of this other stuff, it's always been hot commodity of trying to get an engine. Oh, it's a 3.6. It's this. Yeah, it needs to be totally rebuilt. 30 grand. Here you go. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I got to buy your $30,000 engine just to rebuild it, to not put any more power in it. So now I'm in it for like 45 grand. Awesome. But you can buy a crankcase like this for 8. Granted, it doesn't have all the goodies on it. It's the base.
Or build it into
but you can build it to whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's from Porsche.
That's the biggest thing, is like, it's new.
And I know there's been a couple other privateers that have been out there venturing, like where they're out there casting some of the stuff. And I've been on Renlist and I've seen some of the documentation that come on. But that's a huge undertaking, right? And I'm not saying these people
continue it and scale.
And I'm not saying these places aren't capable of doing it, but are they capable of meeting the supply demand that people are going to want from these engines? If you're a small engine build shop and you've figured out how to cast this thing, how many of these things do you think you could really cast at scale as people are trying to come in? Probably not. Probably not enough to meet demand.
But then it doesn't matter either, I think, because there's going to be a price point. Are people going to be wanting to pay?
Well, that's another thing, too, is now you're calling your shot if you're a privateer building this, as opposed to maybe Porsche standardizes it a little bit where you're not maybe gouged on it, because now that person has cornered the market of like, I'm the only guy who's casting these engines. If you want one, you're coming through me.
And then watch out, too, if they go, okay, we got the cast block, we're going to build the whole thing, and here's what a 3.6 is going to cost you for the whole thing out the door.
Yeah.
And start setting the prices. Then
do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, if
as Porsche Classic restoration starts to grow,
they're going all the way to doing these cars, I mean, full nut bolts restorations, yeah, I think it's 100% that they would take that, because then again, it revolves around that circle of them servicing it. Now they've built it. Now we know it's just like PCLA for the race cars. They built this motor. They know how many miles are on it. They did it. They certified it. That's another level of certification they could get into.
Yeah.
And another comfort level when you go to sell the car. Okay, hey, I didn't just get a top-end rebuild. I just didn't have,
Yeah, I built it at 3.8, and it was stamped by them.
This is stamped by them. Maybe they get the VIN stamped on it, too, so it's numbers matching, that type of thing. Or Porsche built the motor, at least.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
At least you have, I was going to say, I don't know if they do the VIN stamping, but they would give you the additional documentation to be like, this came from Porsche factory. This is a factory Porsche case.
Yeah.
And built in-house, too, on top of it. And you get the original motor that came with it, too. I don't know. To the next buyer, what I'm saying. Like, if you just want to shelve it or whatever you want to do with it. I think it's a big opportunity for them, and I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing them pumping out air-cooled engines, because there's a huge demand for it. Because I know how it is when everybody's hunting donor cars or donor engines for potential back dates, or I want the 2.7 out of my car and I want to go 3.6. Okay, well now a 2.7 shelved, or they sell it to somebody else who wants to put it on. So everybody's like swapping all of these engines from other cars that either already ate up and need a full rebuild, or they're super rebuilt already and you're paying a premium for it. I think this is going to be an awesome addition to help maybe relieve some of that pressure, I guess. Is, hey, you want to buy the engine? It's 30 grand. Yeah, but does it run? Yeah, it runs, but I don't know what the compression is. Great. So, and that's kind of where the game is at for those people that are hot rodding cars, that are building cars, that are, oh, I took a shell, so now I need to get an engine for it, but I don't want any engine. I want to do ITBs, and I want to do this, and I want to do this full-on build. And I think this helps give people an option. Even if it's an expensive one, I think there's one there.
Having the money, I think the only person I'd really go to do it would be the Ed Pink Motors. If I was going to do a 964 and build it like that, just because Singer's done it so many times, I feel like that's a proven thing.
But I think where I'm going with this is like prime example. Let's say, and we know everybody says I'm never selling. You never say never, right? Because cars get sold, even though you say you're never going to sell a car. But there's plenty of people, like, for example, what if you bought your one special car and you want to hot rod it, and you want to do all these things to it, and you really want to dive into the motor that you have in it that actually matches the car, but you're afraid to do that because maybe the car has some like provenance or it has some relevance. So you're leaving the motor the way it was without like dicking around with the internals too much, like boring it out and changing the whole duration and stroke and all that kind of stuff of the car. This gives those people a great option to take their pristine 2.7 or whatever it is with a magnesium case, shelve that thing, and go put a 3.6 in or a 3.3 or a 3.2 and build that out, put it in that shell, go hot rod the hell out of the car for a long, long time, 5-6 years, however long you want to hang on to it, or for your whole life till you hand it down to somebody who maybe doesn't want it anymore. Be like, well, I have the original engine too that came with the car. That makes the car so much more valuable than hot rodding the current engine in it. And that's what a lot of Porsche guys that are really
for it to all
enthusiasts.
For it to all be a factory is the
there's a lot of guys that are afraid to hot rod the original engine for that effect because they don't want to get handcuffed to the car forever to be like, well, what if I do need to sell it? Now it's worth a lot less because I hot rodded the hell out of it. And it is a special car. So this gives them that option of, okay, I can hot rod an engine, keep my original engine, and I don't have to pay an arm and a leg maybe to do it. Like, you're still going to pay up, but I'm talking about to buy like a clapped out $30,000 engine that you got to dump another 15 into it just to have it into your other car.
The not knowing.
Yeah. I hope they do it. I hope, like I said, that we've discussed what's available, but I'm saying like long term, I hope that they start pumping them out, right?
Well, it's a pretty good, like, it's a wide spectrum of crankcases too. It's the whole spectrum. It's not just like
it's like we have one for every single one except an early car, basically. Like no 2.7 stuff here. But
sorry,
it makes sense.
Did make the 100.
Well, they're now mag cases on them, so like. Anyways, good information for you guys out there building a car or wanting to build a car or hot rod your car and never could because you didn't want to go source another engine. This could be your option, right?
Could be the start.
Yeah. So Porsche, build them if you. It's not like they don't have the casts for this stuff. Like it's not like they're just like, all right, throw all that stuff in the schmelter, we're done with it. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Charlotte this weekend, where Porsche's racing. So they got a 15 kilogram reduction in weight through BOP. Ooh,
feeling bad about
it's a little bit. I think there's probably a lot of voices that probably spoke up, and there's a lot of mongering. I don't know if we had anything to do with that, but we definitely said something. Everybody who raced for Porsche said something. People all around the racing world had something to say about that kind of stuff too. But no bump in power, but 15 kilogram reduction on what they were at. We'll see if it's enough. I bet it's not enough. They're probably going to still have to pull more out of the car because...
No, they're pretty... Yeah, I mean, they need power.
Yeah, it was... Well, no, I think either if you want to be down on power, that's fine. Take all the weight out of the car then, because there's still weight in it. From I think it was something crazy. I think it was like 50 kilograms what they ended up getting.
I think it was only 20. I think it was only 20 kilograms added, but I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think it was 20 kilograms added, but it was a 40 kilogram difference between cars or one of the cars. I think
so maybe now
the way they were explaining
5 kilogram hit right now, but they didn't give him any more power. So we'll see if it makes any difference at Charlotte. Hopefully it does. Probably a little too late, right? Probably shouldn't have been.
Well, it's fine. I mean,
I mean as far as like the BOP stuff, like come on, like literally for the Super Bowl, they ended up like handcuffing us to like the sideline and saying like, oh, you don't get to win this one no matter what. So
that's fine. We'll come back next year.
Tied an anchor to the back bumper and just like, have fun. But so that's that. Hopefully
you gotta give them something.
Yeah, hopefully you guys will watch that race and maybe we'll see if there's a difference there.
Yep.
Let's close with, so everybody who came to Fahren should have the email in their email box.
It certainly should.
And that's just the people attended that are getting it. So full disclaimer on that. If you're a club member and you don't see it yet, there's a reason, because you didn't attend last year. So you don't have that yet. You will be seeing it in the next couple weeks. So the accommodations aren't on there, but we are staying in the same location. We've decided dates have changed on it, though. Not from like our previous announcement, just from the past calendar year. We already have some signups. Like we said, we're only taking 30 cars. The dates are what? September 15th, 16th, 17th, roughly?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. So make sure you check your inbox. Check your spam, too.
That happens a lot more often than we like.
Yeah, it might be in there, too, saying like, oh, well, I didn't get anything yet. If you are part of that first group who actually attended, you should definitely see something. That means either in your inbox or in your junk mail. It should be in there, because in 2 weeks it's going out to the rest of the membership to sign up, and first come, first serve on that. So please sign up for that. That's September of next year. The great thing about it too is there's going to be Oktoberfest happening during that time, so we're going to get a little taste of that, where we're going to be at, and great roads again, right? And again, it's open to pretty much any Porsche, you know. So I would highly recommend don't bring your SUV if that's what you want to bring, because it's just not going to perform as well. But if you have a sports car, let's keep it that way. You're more than welcome to join.
All things, I guess.
I mean, just use your head. Come on. I mean, if that's all you got, that's what you got. Just know you're not going to have the best of time.
If you're DC, you probably would, though.
But yeah, so for people that are listening that aren't P-Car Club members, this is a club event only. Now, you could become a club member and go on the drive, correct? Like, that's pretty much what you need to do if you want to attend this drive. And again, like, it's going to be intimate, like we talked about earlier, Targa Carolina. Instead of having invites only, club members are basically our invites only. And again, it's back to the first 30 that come. It is what it is. You can bring a companion with you. It's going to be a little extra for that, but that's to cover dinners and stuff like that. Nothing, no big deal. It's not like you're getting gouged because you bring somebody, but we are going to be paying for food, so that's going to be included on your price. We had a fantastic time last year. I know there was a couple people that couldn't make it that actually did sign up because of obvious reasons of like the Corona crap year that we're having. But again, I'm anticipating there's still drives that happen this year. We did our drive this year. I just went to a drive. There's going to be a lot of places are going to be open for business next year, and you still don't feel comfortable with it. That's fine. I'm sure we'll find our 30. It's not going to be that big of a deal because
no, I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, I think we're going to run into a situation of, you know, not like having enough slots, but that's going to be part of the game. It's not like we're trying to hustle people, but we're trying to keep it fun. And when you get, again, you know, not to harp on this, you have too many cars, that's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons we only did it. We did it club members only as well.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody who's listening, it's not a club member. We would love for you guys to come, but we're not trying to turn this a 200-300 car rally, whatever. Like, this is not what this is about. No. Like, this is about everybody having a safe, fun time, driving aggressively, and spending some intimate time together. Not the, hey, you know, everybody's at the table in their cell phone type of thing. This is the kind of thing where there's 30 people there and maybe you only know 10 of them. So you're going to get to know 20 more people, and you guys are going to become friends because you both went to that event.
Porsche buddies.
Exactly. Now you have a friend that lives in who knows where, like wherever they tell you they're from. And then you're passing through, and maybe you guys start running your own routes at some point. Who knows? That's the whole gist of it. That's the whole camaraderie part of it. So that's out there. Those dates are out there. I'm super excited for it. I can't wait to get going again, even though I just got back.
Yep.
And if you've never been, like I have, I want to say before our actual drive, you're wondering to yourself, what's the big deal, right? Because I'll throw myself out there being totally transparent. I thought the same thing. I'm like, yeah, it's probably great, but it's not. It can't be that great.
Yeah,
it is. And I'm not saying that trying to like entice you and advertise you. If you don't ever want to come on our thing, that's fine. But I highly encourage you to go up with some buddies and do your own thing and map some roads. We have all that stuff mapped for you. But I'm saying if you want to do your own thing, try it at least. Go do it. And once you do it, you'll get it. All you got to do is once. And you're like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just gives you a sense of what the car can do versus just the daily commute if you're doing that, or even if you're doing spirited drives.
Yeah, it's fun to do by yourself, but it's even better to do it with a group of 911s or, you know, whatever.
Especially with somebody familiar, and even with the event too, that helps.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where to drive spirited as a group and go around, it's fun. It's fun, especially you have a car to chase, especially if you've never been up there like myself. It helps immensely. Instead of being the lead car and trying to figure it out, you can carry a lot more speed because you're watching them carry speed. You can carry the same speed. You can see where they apex, so you can apex. So that's why you do it in a group if you can. So,
yep.
But I don't have anything else. You have anything else before we shut them down here?
Nope.
All right, boys and girls, we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of P-Car Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at P-Car Talk or online at pcartalk.com.